So do you want?
I apologize. Is it okay if I start off the group?
Sure.
Okay, sounds great. So, thank you everybody for attending tonight. We're for our webinar, Protect Your Reputation, Data, and Cash Flow, five easy steps to secure your system against the new AI hackers. We're very fortunate tonight to be joined by Michael Benson of Cyber Umbrella. He's going to tell you a little more about himself going forward in these slides, but um, I can just say that he is. I looked you up a little bit. You have a good storied career, helping out as a consultant in a lot of different directions. But his main one right now is uh, helping practitioners like all of you who are on the line safeguard their networks against AI threats. So, as a lot of you know, there's been a lot of talk about some high-profile hacks that have happened in the dental world. Um, just because you're small doesn't mean you're not vulnerable. In fact, it's probably the exact opposite. You have some very important information on your networks. So it's we've identified this as something we want to talk about for a while. One of our board members, hey, listen, I'm working with a great group. They've helped me identify some vulnerabilities on my end, and he referred me to Michael and his team at Cyber Umbrella, and that's one of the reasons we're here. So before we begin, some housekeeping. All of your lines have been muted, with the exception of myself and Michael. So if you have any questions at any point, I've enabled the chat. You can chat into us as hosts and panelists. Also, there's a questions answer box. So you can type it in there as well. If you think of any questions that come up during the presentation, feel free to type them in. We will reserve time at the end when we will go over all of them, and Michael will answer your questions for you. So with that, Michael, I'm going to turn it over to you, sir. Thank you very much for presenting for us.
All right. So thank you so much, Steve. And first, I just want to acknowledge and thank you and your group for giving this opportunity. And as I go through these slides, you'll hear that, I am on a mission. I would consider myself an alarmist. You always go, oh, that guy's an alarmist. I'm an alarmist. And I'll admit it. We like to reference ourselves in a lot of our things we use. You'll see an image of Paul Revere with an umbrella, and instead of riding the horse saying the British are coming, I'm out there yelling, the cyber attack is coming, the cyber attack is coming. And our goal really is to bring awareness. And this is a great webinar for me to do, as I'm doing a number of webinars in a lot of different categories. But if you're on here and you're going to be in Harrisburg next week at the event, we're going to be there, and please come up, meet me, let me know you're on this webinar. Love to meet you in person. So as I get started, I want to ask you to go ahead and grab something to write with. Um, typically I'm on a webinar, platform, and I'm not necessarily watching the chat. So I love the fact that, Steve is going to monitor this, and I may answer your questions. So if you write your questions down, even if you don't put them in the chat or towards the end, if your question is not answered, we'll try to get you some answers. So one of the things I love to put the slide in, like, why the heck do you care what I have to say? I mean, I'm not a dentist, and I didn't go through the schooling of dentist, but I will go into, some of my background. But what I want to show you tonight is that I am using a lot of references. I was told, hey, when you do a seminar for dentists, they just want the facts, right? Get the facts. So we have a lot of references. I'm not going to go through this whole list, but the FTC is on this list, and the dental product report, and fortifiedhealthsecurity.com. So all these different facts that I put out, they were taken from different websites and different people that are writing about, what you should do and what those statistics are. And so, I'm always told, hey, tell them what you're going to tell them, tell them what you told them. I want to really just start that, I'm going to take the first few minutes to just, share a little bit about myself. This is not about me, but I'm told that you guys, hey, like, who is this guy? Well, I want to let you know that I was the youngest baby in the world to have glaucoma surgery. I was only a couple of days old. And because of that, at 16, they told me to take Braille and that I would be blind. That sent a whole thing off with myself of what I went through as a kid. And so in 2014, I started an organization. I started speaking into the lives of young people that were diagnosed with visual impairment, with diseases that they were going blind. I'm blind in my left eye and I'm holding on. I have advanced glaucoma in my right eye. And there are people drinking, committing suicide, jumping in bad relationships. Hey, what am I going to do for a living? It set me off on an entrepreneurial life of trying to make enough money that if I went blind, that I would be okay. And I also have been all over the world burning visual memories. And in 2014, I started taking people going blind on visual wishes, why they still had some vision. And I taught this meditation technique to burn visual memories that would last beyond physical sight. And through then, I got a lot of accolades. You know, I was on ABC World News. That's the picture on the left. I started the very first Surfing for Vision blind surfing event this August in New Jersey on August 17th. We're doing our 9th annual Surfing for Vision. Last year we had 91 blind people on surfboards. What an event. We give a really great day to the blind. They're the mentors, however. They're facing their fears. We do it to send a message worldwide that if you're going blind, your life's not over. And then one of my favorite shots, that's me on the right. There's a little girl, she's blind now. Her visual wish was to see the fireworks at Epcot. Someone snapped that picture, and her mom nominated us or me for CNN Heroes. We didn't win, but it was a great honor to be, to be able to do this. You know, I get to do this. And so we've been in the nonprofit world since 2014. Now, combining that with my business life, I started in the 80s. Some of you guys, depending on your ages, will remember the Yellow Pages. Well, I was a President's Club guy. Been in Philadelphia was my market. I've been in thousands of businesses. In the 90s, I became a business consultant, international business consultant. There I am in China. Uh, I did help companies become ISO certified, got in the back end of businesses. And one of the things I just want to say about that is, we would look at, what went wrong, how to fix it, and then put in the measures how to make sure this never happens again. The big thing is, and really for you in cybersecurity, hey, you've gone to all the schooling, you're building a practice. What could blindside you, pun intended, and take your business down and hurt you? And so we focused on that. I focused on that, and I'm focusing on that today. And then in 2017, I raised funds as an entrepreneur. That's an industry magazine in New York City. That's me in the center there. I built a platform called B Causes. We combined uh, Groupon and Amazon Smile, and we let the millennials all pick the charity they cared about. And you could buy an offer at a restaurant, and then 10% would go to the charity of their choice. Because being in a nonprofit, I would go to a restaurant I ate at 100 times, and they say, "We're sorry, Mike, we're already supporting this other cause." And I said, there's got to be a better way where, today it's happy birthday, uh, you know, support my cause. How do you not alienate your patients? So unfortunately, COVID put us out. We didn't survive. We were in Jersey in beta, growing tremendously. We had Emerald and some other celebrity chefs aboard, and every restaurant in Jersey shut down. And we were still on burn rate, and we didn't make it through. I went back to consulting. And so today, Cyber Umbrella is a division, it's an entrepreneurial division of the nonprofit. So you'll hear about that. We have a goal, and it's an entrepreneurial and charity goal to help 5 million people. And there is Paul Revere. We're out there yelling the cyber attack is coming. How can we help 5 million people? Well, let's say there's 30 of you that come on tonight. I don't know how big your database is. Is it 1,000? Is it 10,000? Well, maybe we can reach 30,000. We could help protect 30,000 to 300,000 people by educating them to be safe, because we are at war. One of the things that I'll tell you, that as a patriot, watching what's happening in the country, sitting by, we have started the Cyber Defense Force, and we're beginning to sign up people with disabilities that they can post out information and spread this message, because I was turned down in my 20s to go in the military. So I believe now we can participate and help protect. There's a movie that came out, Leave This World Behind, with Julia Roberts, just this year on Netflix. You should watch it. And it was about every single system and phone and everything going down in one day. And it was neighbor against neighbor, for medicine and food. And some of us remember Y2K, although it wasn't as impactful. I was going to church in 1999, and we were being told to save food, medicine, and water, some guys bullets, because we were afraid that every single system would go down. We're right back 24 years later with what's happening in our dependency on in the digital age, that we can really be hurt from the inside out. So that's who we are, and we're combining, entrepreneurship and charity, which you're going to hear about tonight. So, and again, I'm 62 years old, so I go all the way back. Remember that show, Dragnet? The facts, ma'am, just the facts, ma'am. Well, I'm going to hit you with a lot of facts, right? And cybercrime is expected to skyrocket. When you look at this chart here, it's scary, because in 2020, this is trillion, by the way, 2.95 trillion, almost 3 trillion. Here we are in 2024. It has tripled. The FBI is putting out all kinds of warnings. And by the way, your category is at the top of the list. If you haven't been hacked, or you haven't had any kind of trouble, you may not even know it, and some of your information can already be in the dark web. We can find that out for you. Is information leaking through your system to the dark web and you don't even know? So this is the facts. This is what's going on. It's growing by $1 trillion a year. And now with the entrance of what's happening in AI, it's a whole new world. You may recognize some of these headline making companies, right? EagleSoft and Open Dental and Kaiser, right? And these breaches may have indirectly or directly affected your practice, right? But it wasn't your hack, right? It was someone in your industry, and maybe it's affected your cash flow, right? And you know that I'm speaking the truth, because maybe you were being paid quicker, and now your cash flow is being affected because you're not being paid as quick. I think it was just last month, United Healthcare got whacked, right? So, or 2 months ago. So this is very real, what's going on, and you can't bury your head in the sand and believe, well, who would want to come after me, So I want to just let you know just a couple of acronyms here, because we work with experts. We're a nonprofit, and just so you know, we don't sell cyber insurance, and we're not here to sell you anything tonight. We're here to educate you. And our goal, again, is to educate and get the word out and make sure that you're safe, because if you're safe, your patients are safe. And possibly you have an IT guy and you call him up when something breaks, or maybe you have a managed service provider, which is really great. But that's like, there's guys in your field that specialize in implants, and then there's other guys that specialize in other things, and then there's general dentistry, but then you have subject matter experts. Well, your team at this stage of the game, and I'm going to skip to AI. AI is changing the game. If you don't have an MSSP is a managed service security provider. You should write that down. Ask your team, are you a managed service security provider? So when AT&T a few weeks ago gets hacked and 72 million records are compromised, the managed service security provider, they're on the webinar the next day finding out how did they get in. Your guy may not be there. There might be in a blog going using Defender software. We've been able to be on all these different calls. I've been on calls with billion-dollar companies, and our managed service security provider, our vendor that does our penetration tests, they did over 2,000 assessments, and it's it's just absolutely scary, some of the stories that I've heard. One, I'm going to tell you, it's not a dentist. It was, we do a lot of stuff for CPAs as well. Of course, they have a lot of information, and you probably have a CPA as well. But when I first got started in doing this, I went to a CPA that I know in New Jersey who had 1,000 clients, and the FTC is now, mandating that they go out and put their cybersecurity and written security plan in place, and everything through the FTC is based on. They actually changed the language to say you must, the MUST, you must put your security plan in place based on your risk assessment. And so the great friend and my accountant with 1,000 clients said, Mike, we're 100% secure. We have a great firewall. We have a great IT guy. We have Defender software. And, but we do need to do this. And if you Google this, by the way, it's quite expensive, right? The guys that do these tests, they don't want to walk into your door for less than $5,000. And that's a big nut for you to find out. And quite honestly, a lot of people, they get told, hey, I'm good, and you're betting the farm on all your education and all your patience and your cash flow and everything on the guy he's basically checking his own work. And he said, hey, a third party risk assessment, that sounds good. Well, we went in and did it, and it was scary because we were able to steal in a ethical hack. That's what they call it. It's a real world simulation of, it's almost like hiring a criminal to go in to see if they can break into the art gallery, right? And an ex-criminal, right? So they go in, and not necessarily do they call up the IT company and say we're coming, because the bad actor doesn't do it. And they get permission, and they go in, and they'll see if what happens. They were able to steal their Microsoft token, which is their keys to everything. They could take over the email and send an email from the owner of the company to someone. Social security numbers were gathered. It was very, very scary. And this was someone who felt they were 100% secure with the latest technology. So as we go through this, as a small business, you're never going to see the small businesses in the news. That's why we say, can you, as a small dental practice, what would it actually cost you if you did wind up getting hacked? And so I'm just going to go through some of the latest cybersecurity in the dental industry statistics explained. Now, in the beginning, I showed you the references. That's where this information came from. Some of it is redundant. I didn't make this stuff up. This is what the experts are saying about your industry. So right now, the experts are saying only 33% of dental offices provide cybersecurity um, policy and procedures to their staff members. So I don't want to read this whole thing to you, so I just highlighted what they said at the end. Dental offices should prioritize cybersecurity training to enhance data protection and mitigate potential security risks in their operations. One of the things that we highly recommend that you look into is education with phishing emails, because if you get all of your employees to go through ongoing education, the banks have been doing this for a while. They go through, they get a certificate that they went through, and then they will randomly to your staff send emails to see if they can trick them. Better that the security program tricks them than an actual hacker, that could let them into your system. And if you have people working remotely, you absolutely want to make sure that they don't get hacked, and then there's a way for someone to log into your cloud or into your office system, because you're allowing we say, oh, well, all our guys, they're on computers, but then they log into our secure system. If they get hacked, someone else can get into your secure system. About 70% of, and this was 2019, 70% of dental practices have experienced a form of cybersecurity incident in 2019. So you have to ask yourself, are you part of that 30%? Or maybe some of your information is already on the dark web and you don't know. And it's like if you don't know, it's like, hey, you don't know. People don't want to know, really, but there are no victims here. Once you know, you're responsible, right? This data suggests a significant majority of dental practices have faced some form of a security breach, whether it be ransom attack, a data breach. And by the way, ransom attack is the last thing that happens. That's after the termites have been eating away for months, maybe, right? Phishing scams, and that's prevalent. Someone's click something, nothing happens. It's like whew, you forget about it. Well, you don't even realize that they could be on your platform watching and gathering information, and other cyber incidents. Such incidents could have serious consequences, and I'm going to hit this later, but pay attention to the last aspect of this, including compromised patient data, financial loss, damaged reputation, and potential legal ramifications. And right now, in 2024, there are attorneys jumping on the bandwagon, putting lawsuits together if they find out that someone had a problem and that breach and their information was compromised through you. Getting them lifelock for a year does not excuse you from being sued. Over 50% of all cyber attacks in healthcare have targeted dental offices since 2020. Wow. So this is not on this slide, but in some of the other things that I've been reviewing, healthcare is number 3, and 50% of all cyber attacks are coming after dental offices. And that's scary for you guys, and underscores the importance for you guys to strengthen your cybersecurity protocols. And by the way, you're here today, which is great. The people that show up, it's like you want to protect that back door. You want to make sure you don't have the air running with the windows open somewhere, and you don't know why your bill is so high, right? So these numbers are scary for you because they believe that the dental offices are low hanging fruit. The FBI reported 300% increase in cyber attacks in the healthcare industry, most of which targeted small dental practices like dental offices since 2020. So this is kind of redundant, right? There's a 300% increase. We know that 50% in the healthcare industry, so it's tripled, and half of those are going after dental offices. The specificity, excuse me, I stumble over that word, of the target focusing on small practices suggests gaps in cybersecurity defenses. Now, if we're telling you this, I guarantee you these guys, they're professionals, they know this. They're now going out. It's almost like before in 2004, the Canned Spam Act came out, when everybody's box was just being flooded with emails. And then, you had, Constant Contact and MailChimp and all these different people coming out. Well, the hackers are now just spamming dental offices. Your staff is going to get hit with more phishing and spear attacks than you've ever seen, and they play the confidence game. So what does it cost, right? And so depending on your size, and again, this is from the research we did, the cyber attacks on dental practices can cost on average 1 million in damage. And this cost includes expenses related to investigating the breach, recovering data, upgrading security systems, and potential legal fees or fines. You guys always know it's better to take care of your teeth than have to repair your teeth, right? Same thing. Better to be, have layers of protection and not be a candidate to be ransomed than be reactive after it happens, right? And so the damages can be quite significant. And could you survive that? Well, um, I think this is the last, I'm getting to the end of some of these facts, and I'm going to go into some things you can do to check your own system. Approximately 59% of dental practices are not aware of the risk of cyber breach. And we highlighted as a result, these practices may be more vulnerable. So again, a lot of this is redundant. It highlights the urgent need for dental practices to educate themselves on cybersecurity risks and to be proactive. And that's why you guys are here today. And less than half, 43% of dental clinics have a system in place to detect intrusions in their network. Implementing effective cybersecurity measures should be a top priority. And so I ask you to ask that question. Has it been a top priority for you to safeguard patient information and maintain the trust in your service? One of the things that's interesting, when, I have conversations, they're like, well, don't talk to dentists about HIPAA because I've had people say they don't really care, you know, which, you could say, you might be saying, well, that's not true. I really care, but your reputation is everything, right? And also your cash flow is everything. So it really goes hand in hand, those three things. And that's what we point out to you. And so dental practices are predicted to be an increasing target of cyber attacks. The statistics suggest that dental practices may have relatively weaker cybersecurity measures in place compared to industries, leaving them more vulnerable to potential cyber attacks. I can tell you, if I'm sharing this with you in a webinar, there's some organizations saying, hey, let's go get another $1 trillion this year. Who should we attack? Well, let's go to the healthcare and let's go after dentists. So you cannot, the past does not equal the future. And going forward, unfortunately, you must make this a priority. So possibly, hey, you're a small dental office, and small dental offices, hey, you're concerned, as I mentioned, with your reputation, your cash flow, and of course your patient data. Um, Honestly, personally, the offer that I make to you guys, which is a phenomenal offer to help you to find out how secure you are, Cyber Umbrella, our goal is to protect as many patients' data as we possibly can. And that means by helping you educate and become as secure as possible. And so just ask yourself the question, if we were down for 10 to 14 days, depending if you have insurance and you got to go through that, or you got to get, your information, uncrypted, or go back to your cloud and do the average is going to be 10 to 14 days that you can be ransom. And it doesn't matter if you're a small practice, a big practice, if your business is in the cloud, they can get into your cloud. They can get past MFA. We're going to talk about multi-factor authentication. And like all businesses are going to have to pay the ransom if they get encrypted. To get that ransom, the FBI will come in, but pretty much I've been in this in a personal experience where my wife was the CFO of a $1 billion company in San Antonio, Texas, and they were ransomed for $10 million. And all their information wound up going to the dark web. And years later, it's still impacting and affecting past employees, past vendors, and it opens them up to all kinds of liability. So you say, well, you know what? I have insurance. I have or maybe you do have ransom insurance, but do you have cyber insurance? Because business interruption insurance will not cover you. I'm going to say that again. You said, well, I got business insurance. It will not cover a cyber attack. Now, I'm not selling cyber insurance, but I've been on a lot of insurance webinars for the very reason is they are experts at not paying claims. They're expert in denying claims. And we know why they're denying claims, and they go through these self-assessment questionnaires. Who's doing the questionnaire? Is it your IT department? and they answer these questions. And I've been on a lot of, like, when we give away a free pen test, you know, $5,000 value, we give these away to certain people, and they ask them a lot of questions, and the people are like, yeah, I think we have that. Yeah, we have that. You know, I want to bring your attention. I think, let's see, it's down here, like, M. M on this list is annual pen testing. If yes, is such pen testing conducted by a third party service provider? Oh, yeah, we do that. And then if you do wind up having cyber insurance and they say, oh, in the last 12 months, you didn't have a third party pen tester come in because you didn't want to pay the money, they're going to deny your claim. So here you are now, you're being ransomed. You've been paying for cyber insurance. If you have cyber insurance, or if you're going to go get cyber insurance, and you say, yeah, we do this, and then you don't do it, it's like, it's like, actually my next slide, it's like someone's, with a pre-existing condition, and then they find out, the insurance company says, well, we're not going to pay that. So this is why I asked you to take out a piece of paper. I'm going to give you some things that you can do on your own, or quiz your IT, because you might say, well, I have John or Brian or Fred who does this. I don't do this stuff. I'm the dentist. But you kind of have to really, you can't bet your farm, right? You want third party to keep these people honest. So here is a few things that are always on these questionnaires. And the self-assessments, by the way, are not cutting it anymore, and the insurance companies have denied more claims since 2020 than ever before. And the insurance companies love when someone gets a third party pen test, because they don't want to even have a claim. And so if you understand the insurance actuaries, you want to follow what they say to do, even if you don't have insurance, because they're betting if you do all these things, you're not gonna get ransomed. So these are some questions. Do you have that multiple factor, authentication for email or sensitive information? Do you have backups? Do you have up to date active antivirus? Written in document breach response plan? Do you have an up to date active firewall? And we're gonna, again, I kind of talked about this already. You can say, oh yeah, we have that, but um, you want to be on top of this stuff. So we're going to go through how you can check some of these on your own. So, when you get an email or sensitive information, are you being prompted, to go to an app to put in a code that changes every 30 seconds and put in that code to get into certain files? Or are you able just to log in and see that information? And the scary thing with AI is, when I gave you that example of the CPA, if they get in and steal your token, they'll bypass your MFA. So even with MFA, you may not be safe, but you should have MFA and be prompted or get a text when every single time that you're logging in. Unfortunately, it's a pain in the butt, but so is TSA, but it's keeping us safe at the airports, right? Do you have backups, and are you sure they're working? Or is your team testing your backups? Now, if you're someone that does have insurance, I'm just going to give you this tip. Is your team keeping a log book? Yeah, we have backups. We test it. Well, do you have a log? Now, I come from an ISO certification background. Hey, we had a problem. Here's how we fixed the problem. And here's how we're going to stop the problem from happening in the future. If you have some kind of breach, it doesn't mean you're bad, but this is what you did. This is how you solved it. And now this is what you put in place so it doesn't happen again. That information needs to be in a log. Are you keeping that log? That's the difference of you getting paid out and, being able to pay the ransom and getting back up, and maybe not being down for more than 10 to 14 days. Do you have up-to-date antivirus installed on all your computers? We have found that 20% of the networks do not have this. And it's really easy to test this. You can test this on the computer you're on. All you need to do is go on each one of your systems or the system you're on right now, run your mouse down to the right side, and is there a little icon, that's letting you know that you have protection and that it's active. And so your antivirus will always be down in the right side and you can hover your mouse. If there's something that, if it's not there, you need to look in and make sure each one of your your endpoints, each one of your computer systems have that antivirus, or you have a weak access to get into your entire system. Do you have a written documented breach response plan? And by the way, as the owner, you are responsible. Maybe it's in your little lockbox, your little safe, but do not just say, yeah, Brian has this. You need to know, because the FBI is going to deal with you and not necessarily your IT guy. And same thing with the insurance company. They're going to want to say, well, if something happens, besides that log, what is your response plan? What are you going to do to immediately mitigate this scenario? What is your plan of action to minimize the damage and put yourself back on the right path? And then the last one of these little 5 checkups that I wanted to give you that you can do on your own or bring to your IT guy is, do you have an up-to-date active firewall technology? And this is easy to check as well. Are you paying for a subscription for your firewall? Oh, we got a great firewall. Are you paying a monthly subscription? Because if that firewall is not being updated on a regular basis, auto updating, then the hack that just got created yesterday, you're vulnerable to that. So you want to make sure that, unfortunately, if you're not paying, it's another fee that you got to pay. But this is what's going to protect your entire system to make sure you have a subscription on your firewall technology. Okay, so with that being said, those are some things that you can check. And so people, maybe you have the question that those are great things, Mike, but how can I do a full assessment? And again, we're not anti-IT people. There are 2 types of IT people. And if you have an IT person on here today, I'm going to speak directly to you. I don't know. You have the guy who knows everything and he's full of ego and you love him and you're betting the farm on him and he's got you and he knows everything. But even you as a dentist, you know that you refer out to a specialist. And if he's not an MSSP, he doesn't know everything about cybersecurity. And so these guys cannot proofread their own work. And so we highly suggest that you get a third party cyber penetration risk assessment. Now down here, you can write this down. I'm going to tell you what we're doing. We set something up just for the people that come on the webinar today. And then also we're going to have a booth in Harrisburg, but cyberumbrella.org/PAGD. We're going to tell you about that, where we're going to be able to offer you a free third-party cyber risk assessment. It's done, there's an NDA, it's done by a $1 billion certified pen tester. We don't actually do the test. Your information's confidential, but you absolutely want to know where you sit today with these AI hackers out there. Some of you guys are using AI for marketing. It's great. But on the other side of the coin, the old Terminator movie, AI can get out of control with the bad actors, right? I'll be back, Arnold Schwarzenegger. So this is scary to me. This was information that I recently found during my research and put this in. What are the consumer rights? And the reason I put this in is I was contacted. There are lawyers that are contacting us, and we don't really want to have anything to do with the ambulance chasers. Say, look, no, we're looking to protect consumer data, but we're also an advocate of the businesses, and we're not going that route. But we want to let you know you can be sued for a data breach. And what that means is, if you do get a data breach and you give everybody LifeLock, These people can still come after you, and everybody wants to sue everything. Sue someone for everything, and I have some scary stories about this that I'll share. The second thing is, can you get compensated? This was a consumer. Beyond the money they lost, it's they can actually sue you for suffering. Oh my gosh, I couldn't sleep. I went to a therapist and I was filled with anxiety and thought my entire retirement savings was going to go. In 2 years, 2 years after my information, because you're obligated to send out a letter and get everybody LifeLock for a year or two, my bank called me that someone showed up with a copy of my license with their photo on it. This is a real example that happened from my wife's company, and the bank flagged it because the guy walked into the wrong bank in San Antonio. Imagine a guy walking in. They wound up through a breach, wound up getting into a personal computer, wound up getting a copy of the president of the company's driver's license. 2 years later, it was purchased on the dark web. Guy walks in with a copy of his license with his picture, and is opening 2 bank accounts. They realized that there was another bank account in that guy's name. They contacted the president of this company to find out these were fraudulent accounts. That guy was on his way of getting a social security card, which then would open him up to take loans and everything else. And they flagged it and they caught him. But they could come back and sue the company that the original breach came from. And there are attorneys now that are ambulance chasing this type of business, and you've built this practice. You went to college and dental school, and you've been working for 5 or 10 years to build up this practice. This is a blindside event that you do not want to happen to you, and they have up to 6 years to come after you, which is nuts, right? So I don't mean to scare you, but I want to scare you, right? I told you in the beginning, I'm an alarmist, and I didn't make this stuff up, but I am delivering you this information. So are you confident that you are completely protected after hearing this information? And if you are, hey, that's great. Or he's like, oh, these guys, they're over the top. We're not selling you anything tonight. That's okay. What we are doing is we're letting you know you can get your IT department involved, but if you decide, to take advantage of a third party, penetration test, the bad actors are not going to call your IT department and say, we're coming in, right? And if you do a third party test, there's no administrative credentials that are needed. They do not install anything. You're basically authorizing them to, let that you're knowing that someone's going to come in and secretly attack you, basically. And then what they're going to do is the subject matter expert, we have Telco United Cyber. By the way, they're going to be sharing the booth with us in Harrisburg. And there's someone to ask a lot of cyber questions too. They're an MSSP partner. They'll analyze the report, your network. They'll meet with you and review the results. They'll give you some simple steps you can take to protect yourself and your data, but there is no unless you ask them to say, hey, we'd like to see what you guys can do to protect us, based on our agreement being a nonprofit and giving away grants. There is no sales pressure, just so you know. So because you're on here today, you can go to cyberumbrella.org/PAGD, and you could fill out your information. Because you're part of this organization, you will automatically get approved. We do up to 5 computers in your network, which will give you a great cross section, and they'll talk about which computers you should do. If it comes back that everything is secure, you have peace of mind. If it comes back that you have, hey, our Microsoft token was stolen, then you really need to look into, hey, maybe I need a 24/7 SOC, which is a cyber operations center. Inexpensive, but they can monitor your system, isolate a bad click. They can put some education on for you with phishing emails. And a lot of this stuff is we've negotiated special pricing because a lot of these guys, they're very expensive. They use government pricing. So through the nonprofit, you can if you are interested in that. But our goal really is just to educate you. And so you go, okay, what's the catch? Remember the beginning. We're out there, and just so you know, I have one of the big problems in the visually impaired community is, employment and so forth. We have visually impaired people on the phones now, calling dentists, CPAs, mortgage companies. We're putting some people to work that want to participate in our mission, and our goal in the next 12 to 18 months, through protecting you and some other categories, is to protect 5 million people. That's who we are, and that's why we're doing this. And so I do want to, even though I was told, hey, HIPAA's not like the main reason people do this, even though I wanted to point this out, even in the HIPAA off the FTC rules are telling you the first step is a risk analysis for an administrative safeguards in the HIPAA, an evaluation of a likely impact of risks. And so everything, the security rule requires a proper risk analysis according to the HIPAA security rule, must include the following, and it goes to an evaluation and then implementation of security measures. Now, hey, at this point, I don't know if HIPAA's running around handing out fines, but with everything that's taking place now, and these big companies that are being hit, the last thing you want is now HIPAA showing up at your door if you get hit with another fine on top of being ransomed and on top of the fact that consumers can sue you, right? So what's the holdback, right? So we think everybody on here, they should go and they should fill out the form, get a, we're missing third party, get a third party cyber penetration risk assessment, and do your due diligence, make sure you feel comfortable with this. Come meet us at the booth in person. And that's pretty much what we Steve, what we wanted to cover with your organization tonight. I hope I brought you guys some really good information and some things to think about. And I think we have about 18 people on, and I'm hoping that, a couple of them are us. I'm hoping we get a bunch of you guys that we can go ahead and issue some of our grants to you. We received a $2 million grant at the beginning of this year, and you can go to Cyber Umbrella. If you hit our news, you can read about the grant we received, and we're administrating and handing these grants out. We've done hundreds of these already. And, our goal is to reach as many people and give these grants out and educate as many people as we can.
I appreciate that, Michael. Now's a good time. If you have questions, we have an expert on the line. Please feel free to type them into the chat or the questions answer box, and we'll address them. A couple questions that have popped up as I've been listening. Michael, how do you know when you've been hacked? A lot of times, I'd imagine it's not going to be explicit. You're not going to get a big red message that pops up in your screen saying, we have all your information. How do you know it's happened?
Well, that's a very good question. Now, I'm going to tell you that I'm not the MSSP, but I'm on a lot of these calls. And one of the things that's scary is when you run this, when you secretly say, okay, you guys can ethically hack us, no one knows. There is no red flag going up. Now, when a company gets a red flag, that's good. You may have some security in place that's red flagging you. But the answer to that question is you don't know. And that's why you want to run this risk assessment. There's many different types of hacks. People feel like when they're ransomed, that's the last step. They've been there for 9 months. We had a small legal company with just 2 computers, And the interesting thing is, they were ransomed for only $38,000. He said, well, why $38,000? When the FBI came in, they said they were there for 8 months. They didn't know. They were watching everything. And what happened was they just got a $38,000 check in. They got everything that they wanted in those 8 or 9 months. Then they encrypted everything and said, we want 38,000. And they knew they just got a $38,000 check in. So that's why you want to do a third, and even if you don't use us, you want to get a third party risk assessment because you don't know. And you certainly want to know. I was on a call today. 1,000 passwords from this company are already in the dark web, and they had no idea that anyone and that they've ever had any kind of breach.
Okay, so it's almost like going to the doctor. You don't know you're sick until you have a professional tell you you are.
You might get a couple of aches and pains, or you might say, that was, weird. My mouse moved, and I didn't move my mouse, and it was one time, and then you're like, nothing's really happening, right? But you saw that your mouse moved, or you had one little flag, or you click something and then nothing happened, so you just shut it, and you're like, oh, it never came up. The internet must have been slow that day, so you just X'd it out because you clicked something and then nothing happened. And you don't know that, a large percentage is that you're letting them in unknowing.
Right. One of the questions that's popped up is this webinar being recorded? It is. I'm sorry, Michael. I'm being very intrusive. I should have asked you ahead of time. You're comfortable with this? People
No
watching this
problem.
after the fact?
Yeah, you can
Yeah.
actually, you could send it everywhere. We want everybody to know, and because quite honestly, my fear is that I'm too late. Like when a movie comes out with Julia Roberts, it's almost like, they're already making movies about it, and that's scary because I was watching Star Trek as a kid, and all that stuff is coming true. So,
All right. Are there any other questions? Now's a good time. Please type them in the questions answer or into the chat. I had a question about firewall. So I'm going to assume the fact that you said that you want some kind of monthly subscription charge to your firewall. I assume that means that the Windows firewall that comes with whatever you get your PC, that's not going to work.
well, I'm being on the calls that I'm on. I got to be careful, especially that I'm being recorded and I don't want to be sued by Windows. But what I am going to say is do this test and have a conversation with an MSSP, and they will answer that question for you.
Okay, I appreciate that. Microsoft's not in the least bit litigious. I'm sure you're fine. Um, Somebody asked the question, are we more or less risk if we are Mac versus PC or Microsoft?
We do find that Macs are vulnerable as well, but less vulnerable than PCs.
Okay. Somebody asked if you're able to distribute copies of your slides. Your
Uh,
call. I mean, this
I'm
is your
gonna,
intellectual property. If you say
yeah,
no,
I
that's
don't think
perfectly
we're
fine.
gonna let the slides out. No,
Okay. Well,
but you can give them the recording. But
yes. Yeah, that's perfectly fine. Any other questions that have come up? All right. Any other? There's a question. Someone wants to know why Mac is less risk than typical PC. Just
and again,
how
I'm
they
the
run.
nonprofit guy. I happen to be on a Mac. I love Macs, but I would send you to the MSP that has the reasons, but you can still get hacked. They're not 100% secure, and they can still get in through a Mac, but Mac seems to be a little more secure. On some of the calls that I've been on, we've seen less breaches, but I don't know the reason why. It's not my lane.
Well, then, yeah, so many run on Windows, and that's think of it as like a highway system. If 90% of the world runs on this one particular highway, there's going to be a lot more traffic on it. Whereas if Mac is running on less traffic, you're going to have less problems, I'd imagine. Now I'm just guessing. I'm not an expert either. Um,
But I
What
will
time is
tell
it?
you, Nikel, who is the fellow who runs Telco United, who's going to be at the booth, this guy is a genius, and definitely stop by the booth and make sure you get to meet him.
Yeah.
He can answer all these questions for you on technical.
Okay. Well, if anybody else has any other questions, you're always welcome to send them in to me. I'd be more than happy to send them on to Michael and his team. They can get you questions, answers to any questions you got that come after the fact. So other than that, Michael, we're good. Any other parting words before we sign off?
Uh, yeah, the only thing that I would say is fill out the form tonight. It doesn't, you will be approved, and you get a 30-minute meeting with Nikel. You can ask all of your questions. He asks you a bunch of questions. If for any reason at that particular point you say, hey, I don't want to go through with it, that's okay. But we are booking up and we put time aside for your group. Certainly between now and Harrisburg, get on the agenda because we can even meet you in Harrisburg, and I'm sure it's going to be limited access. But if you're someone that's, wants to get this information, you're going to get that consultation with Nikel by signing up tonight.
Okay, sounds good. So that's the time we got. Thanks everybody for attending. I've got to sign off right now and make sure my McAfee is all paid up and ready to go. Uh, but I appreciate your sharing this information with us, Michael. We'll look forward to seeing you in Harrisburg in about a week. And everybody else, thanks so much for being on. Hopefully you'll hear from us soon. Take care.
Yeah, thank you guys.